O'Malley is a major artist in residence. He is a storyteller, he is an author, and he's a thinker. Who knew? Ladies and gentlemen, the remarkable Michael O'Malley.
I've been telling stories for a while. And a lot of you have heard me tell folk tales, family stories over the years. And so I thought I'd try something a little different. A little slice of life story. I've been trying to make a living telling stories since about 1995. And I love a night like this when I can share with mostly adults and some friends out here I see that I didn't know were here. But most of my work is with schools. And I go to elementary schools, and what that means is I like to be at home with the family. So if it's 2 hours or less, I won't stay at a motel. That means sometimes I have to get up pretty early in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, get on the road. Now, those of you who know me know that I often run late for gatherings and parties. So I try to arrange it so I won't be so late for storytelling. So I have this thing in my head that I have to be there 90 minutes before the program. Now what that means is that sometimes I'll be there 60 minutes before the program, but that's okay. But sometimes I'm never actually late for a program, but sometimes I'll run it a little too tight. And it'll be like, oh geez, I'm going to get there and it's going to be 30 minutes before start. Not too much time to meet the principal. And when that happens, I start to get tense. And it was one of those times, maybe 5-6 years ago. And so it's early morning, it's still dark outside, but I know I'm going to be late in that I'm only going to be there about 30 minutes before showtime. And I got started late enough that I didn't pack myself a breakfast. That means I have to stop for a fast food breakfast. I know it's not so healthy. And so I pull in, and it could be a Burger King or McDonald's. It happens to be a Mickey D's this time. And I'm going to get one of those egg and cheese sandwiches. And I know about the chickens. I know how their lives have been, and I don't like it, and I don't like to support that, but I'm supporting that, and I've got all this going on in me, and I'm running late. And I get there, and then there's the big line. All the cars for the drive-thru. It's dark outside, all the cars for the drive-thru. So now I have that decision to make. I park the car, I'll go inside. Maybe it'll be a little faster. Of course, I walk inside, there's a line of people standing. It's going slow. Finally, they get up to me. There's a woman there, and I say, egg and cheese sandwich, please. The meal, make the coffee a large, please, okay? She rings it up. I look. It doesn't look right. I said, the meal, please. You didn't say the meal. The meal, please. So you want the sausage, egg, and cheese? No, I don't want the meat. You don't want the meat? I don't want the meat. Okay, just the meal, okay? And can I have like about 7 peppers with that? She hands me 2 of those little pepper packets. I said 7, please. She grabs a big handful. Drops in my hand. So now we stand and wait. Maybe you've experienced this. Because, see, it seems like they're only taking care of the people in the drive-thru. So now we all stand around and wait. And I'm just glaring at this woman. And I'm thinking, can't she show a little courtesy here? I'm not noticing myself, of course. And then I look and I'm noticing she's in her 60s. Most folks don't want to be working at a fast food joint when they're in their 60s. And then I notice she looks a little bit like my Aunt Mary. And I immediately think about my Aunt Mary and all the trouble she gave people from the other side of the counter. Aunt Mary worked as a teller at Dollar Bank. She was my dad's sister. She was my godmother, lived next door to us for much of the time. And my dad used to tell me, he'd say, son, if I didn't have my driver's license, Mary wouldn't cash my check. And I would picture that, and I would see Aunt Mary, Bill, of course I know you're my brother. I know that, but there are rules here. You do not have proper identification. My Aunt Mary was so proud of our Irish heritage. And I love to look at faces and the way they're shaped and try to figure out where, what part of the world they're from. And I thought, this woman, she's Irish. She's got to be at least part Irish. That means she's a cousin. There aren't that many of us. A few million. And I started to think, we're related. We really are. We're related in some way. And I thought, who knows? Maybe our ancestors came over on the same boat. Maybe we're from the same village. We're related. And then I thought of that Brad Pitt movie, 7 Years in Tibet, about the Dalai Lama. And in that movie, he goes over there, and this is before the Dalai Lama had to leave Tibet when he's a young man. And they're going to build him a movie theater. And so they start digging into the ground, but then they realize they're slicing the worms. And the Tibetan people, the Buddhist people, they believe in reincarnation, and you can't slice the worms. Because they believe that worm might have been your mom. And I don't know if this is what really happened, but in the film, so they start breaking it up, and they're picking out the worms one by one. And the Tibetan people say, every man, every woman that you meet was maybe your mother, or your father, or your brother, or your sister. And I look at this woman, I think, maybe she's my mom. Who knows? Could have been. And it was then. I don't know why, but something just kind of washed over me. You know, those of us who are storytellers, when you get up on a stage, you have to kind of enter the story. You have to become the dragon. You have to become the coal miner once again. You have to become Suki. And so I just tried to enter that. What if it's true? And I don't know about me, but what if it's really true? What if she was my mom? And this is the one time that I'm ever going to see her. I wasn't very good to my mom. And I immediately thought, people know me, one of my favorite films, It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, right? It's coming out Christmas. See it. And if you saw it 30 times, see it again. And George Bailey has a chance to see what the world would look like had he never lived. And he walks in, he comes to his own door, and his mother looks at him, and she says, "Who are you? Who sent you here? What are you doing here?" It's horrific. Your mother not knowing you. Some people have experiences with Alzheimer's. And I thought, what if it's true? What if that's really what's happening right here, right now? And I thought, what do the Buddhists say? They call this land samsara, a land of confusion. And I looked, and there was a big, heavy-set black kid. He was the fry cook. And I thought, Grandpa. Could have been. I never knew my grandpa's. My grandpa's died in 1929, 1931, but maybe. And then I turned behind me. There was a guy, he had the Wall Street Journal in his arm. If I looked uptight, he looked even worse. I was thinking, maybe we don't have much in common, but then I thought, what if he was my son? I looked and I noticed he had blue eyes. My two boys, Meshach and Finn, are here. I can't tell you how many hours I spent just holding them when they were babies, looking into their blue eyes. Did I hold that man with the Wall Street Journal? Maybe. Who knows? And I started thinking, what would happen if I start walking around like this is true? And what came to me is, that's kind of how Jesus was. I mean, that's what he was telling us to do, isn't it? I mean, with prostitutes, with tax collectors. And I thought of that one story, the one story where Jesus' mother Mary comes to the door and says, "Go tell Jesus I'm here." He's in with a bunch of strangers talking to him. And so the messenger goes and says, "Jesus, your mom's here." And he says, "What are you talking about? I'm already with my family." And I thought of those words in the New Testament, the ones that are some of the hardest ones for me, the ones that said, "I have not come to bring families together, but to tear them apart. To tear apart our concepts of family." What if it's true? And I saw us all standing there. And most people didn't have a mean expression, but you know when you're standing in line at Walmart or at Kohl's or at Giant Eagle or at Kroger's, we don't really look at each other. But what if it's true? What if we really are that to each other? And we don't know it. Samson, a land of confusion. And then I thought of the 7 years in Tibet again, the worms, the animals, our dogs, cats. And then I thought of some of the reading I had done on the Native American Indians, the Plain Indians. They would go out and hunt and kill, and then they would say, "Thank you, Brother Buffalo. Thank you, Sister Caribou, for feeding my family." Brother, sister. And what do the Catholic monks and nuns call each other? Brother, sister. What do we call the priest? Father. What do the Buddhist monks and nuns call each other? Brother, sister. And I thought, oh my goodness, what if it's true? And of course they say even the trees. I noticed the bush outside of McDonald's. Is it possible? And then I remembered those other words of Jesus. I think he's when he's coming in and all the people are singing Hosanna in the highest, and they tell these people to stop singing. And he says, if I tell them to stop, the rocks and stones will start to sing. This guy's going farther than the Tibetans, not just the worms. I walked out to the car. I wasn't the same guy. And as I was walking out, as people were walking in, I wanted to look at them. I wanted to look at them. And I did. And I got into the car, and I got on the freeway, I got on the interstate, and the last thing I remember was a tree. It was in a field, the wind was blowing. And I'm sure I was just grinning ear to ear. I don't know how long it lasted. A few minutes? It was certainly gone way before I got to the school. I'm sure I started thinking about what stories am I going to tell, what's the program for today, am I making the right turn, can I see my map quest? But it comes back once in a while. Sometimes just for a second. Sometimes for a few minutes. It comes back to me. And when I left the McDonald's, when that woman gave me the food, I'd been glaring at her before, and I just looked at her and I said, "Thank you so much." And she just looked at me like this. But you know, that's okay, because moms are sometimes like that. In that spirit, I'll say, family, thanks for listening.